involved with the educational programs, Jody Borger and Carol Szabo have been real mentors for me. And then just the other parents of children with kids my age. You know, you think you're going through things that are unique or hard, and then you talk to them and it's the same thing, you know. And you know, as a parent, it's always reassuring to, when your kids are fighting all the time, to have somebody say, oh, that's just like what goes on at my house. And you feel like, oh, good, it's not just me. So those kind of connections are just wonderful. And you know, just people who have the same belief system and moral base, and you know they want the same thing for, basically the same thing for their kids that you want. And to see my daughters form those friends with those kind of kids. Rosie has a dilemma. There's a Pro Kids event coming up, and she's been invited to a birthday party the same afternoon, and she's struggling which one to go to, which I just thought for sure she would pick the friend's birthday party, but she really wants to go to this church activity, which I'm leaving it up to her, but I think that's pretty cool that she feels so connected to her friends here that she would choose that over a friend from school. You know, I look back and I even realize that, you know, the older you get, the more you appreciate things. And God has, I mean, that whole grace that you and Pastor Bill talk about so often, that, you know, everything we're given, we don't earn, it's God's grace. And I look back and it's so true. Like, throughout my life, the right people have been put in my life to get me through things. And I look back on the churches that I've been connected with and how we were drawn here, and it's the people, it's the connections, it's amazing, and it's just the grace of God. Mark and I are both just really trying to help the girls appreciate that, you know, we are very fortunate that we live where we live, and we have the jobs that we have and the financial means that we have, but it's really not ours, that we can't take any of that for granted, and we need to give back, and we need to appreciate what we have. So I think that's how God's working in my life. And, you know, do I remember that all the time? No, but I certainly try to live that way and model that for my kids. A couple months ago in the upper room, the devotion, I read this little devotion talking about how your journey with God is like a maze. And I look at, like, when my kids do those little mazes, and what's the easiest way to do those mazes is you start at the end and then you work back because there's not as many choices. And I think of my life as, you know, God's that end point. That's what you want to get to. So if you start with God as your center, then your choices aren't as many. I'm Sandy, and UMC Geneva has shown me God's work in my life, and is continuing to show me how God is working in my family's life.